back with the Two Words Podcast here exclusively on LTN Radio. Matt, we've had some surprises.
Yes.
I mean, we've talked about our surprises with CM Punk signing and Daniel Bryan signing and the thought that maybe they could show up in AEW. A lot of surprises have happened, but, you know, we talked about at the beginning of the show, it's kind of hard to keep surprises.
Yeah.
With the age of the internet, with the age of social media, everybody's got something, everybody's posting something, and surprises just aren't surprises anymore. But that's still kind of what this business is made out of, is the ability to keep a good secret. Mm-hmm. So, what's your favorite surprise of all time?
We're going to jump right to the favorite?
Do you have the worst surprise?
Well, I have a list, but I was going to build up to the favorite.
Okay, well, I mean, give us some of your favorites. You have a list of favorites.
I'll start with some of it. Okay. My first, like when I was first watching when I was a kid, the first big surprise I remember was DX actually going to WCW Nitro. That was like it wasn't a bombastic surprise. It was a gimmick or whatever. But the fact that you looked around, you saw the marquee on the arena and everything, and they're talking to their fans, all that. I'm like, oh man, that stoked my young heart for like, ooh, we're really gonna have a real war. And that whole episode, you're waiting because they're doing it in little snippets. You know, that whole episode, you're waiting if somebody from WCW is gonna come out. And, they didn't, and that's fine. But just the fact that they had the audacity to do that was a surprise for my young heart. I loved it.
Not Vince Russo.
Bischoff?
Bischoff on 83 Weeks. Him and Conrad Thompson were talking about that episode. Yeah. And Bischoff was like, yeah, they did that. They really did that in the middle of a taping. And Conrad Thompson was like, yeah, but all of the stuff was filmed like in the daytime, and you're on the East Coast, so at 6 o'clock it would be dark. So they couldn't have been. And Bischoff was like, no, pretty sure they did it during the thing. And Conrad Thompson winds up screaming, it was daytime! The sun was out!
It was.
Just got so worked up about it.
But I mean, there were fans there outside in line. So, I mean, it couldn't have been so much earlier, right? Yeah. Like, it was close enough to the show that fans were showing up to line to get in. So, I mean.
Undertaker surprises Randy Orton after Randy Orton thought that he had murdered The Undertaker.
Yeah. That's
like, just the look on his face. I love that they go back to that and his huge eyes. And that's just like, it brings all that, because that was still, they were kind of coming out of the supernatural thing of whatever, but like, The Undertaker survived being burned alive. Like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Hulk Hogan is the third man.
Hogan is the third man!
This is a classic. This is even before I was a wrestling fan, everyone knew Hulk Hogan. Yeah. We talked about John Cena being, the family friendly, supposed to be the family friendly guy for all time. Hulk Hogan was the say your prayers, take your vitamins, go to school, whatever else. I don't know what the other
Listen
was.
to your parents.
Listen to your parents. He was the guy. And to come out as the third man, the heel turn that broke what existed of the internet at the time for NWO to start was, I mean, he came out to leg drop on Randy Savage. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy.
It was the best. And the best thing about that surprise was there were so many rumors about who was going to be the third man. Yeah. At one point, Dave Meltzer was like, Maven's going to be the third man. Or Mabel. Mabel. Like, Mabel will be the third man. And somebody's like, no.
Gross. No, please not.
That's not going to happen. Bret Hart was supposed to be the third man.
I heard that, yeah. Well, Bret Hart was going to be if Hulk Hogan decided to not do it. And Hulk Hogan stayed on the fence for a while because he was unsure if the people would take to it.
Go with it.
But it revitalized his career. Yeah. Like, it put him back in the top spot of people caring about him. Like, he was always in the top spot of WCW just because of who he was. But people didn't care about him as much.
People thought Sting was going to be the third man.
Yeah.
Like, that made any sense whatsoever.
That could have been cool, too. Wouldn't have made much sense, but it could have been cool.
Sting in the Sting mask
Yeah,
I love how surprised. I love how surprised everybody in the ring acted.
We're like, what? He took the mask off, but his mask is still there.
Mask still Sting's face. A sad story, a sad surprise.
Okay, we're not going back and forth.
We can go back and forth, but I've already started this story.
Got it.
It's WrestleMania 33. We're watching in this little apartment that we were renting when we first got married. And the internet was kind of slow, kind of sloppy. So there was a lot of lag and that sort of thing. Matt and our good friend Mike Thompson had come to watch WrestleMania with us. It was the most wonderful time of the year. And at one point, the internet freezes up, and I try to fix it. I try to figure something out because we really wanted to watch this tag team match. And all of a sudden, it skips ahead and stops again. And Mike goes, I think that's Matt Hardy's pants. That's Matt Hardy's butt. That's Matt Hardy, and the Hardys are back. And I had ruined the greatest surprise. It was like the best moment of that entire WrestleMania, and I ruined it.
Yeah. I mean...
And I know you talk about it, like you can still go back and feel the chills and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But
like
they did such a good job hiding that.
I think we talked about it in a...
For me to ruin
in a watch-along that I've gone back and watched that clip at least a dozen times since it happened. And still just, but yeah, it was sad, but it was cool. That is one of my top on the list as well. It was cool because that one genuinely was a surprise. Like nobody was actually genuinely expecting that to happen because the Hardy Boys had been on their quest for gold, and they had been winning every single tag team championship.
Yeah.
And always in the back of every WWE's fan's mind knew, well, they're never going to be able to finish this, though, because they're not going to come back to WWE and then win that championship, too. And they were at a Ring of Honor event just the night before where they won the tag team championships there.
Yeah.
And then they showed up at WrestleMania and won the tag team championship there. They did complete it. They won every single tag team title belt in that run, in that quest for gold. That was...
We used the gold to destroy the gold.
It was so amazing that they were able to do that and that nobody actually believed it was going to happen. Like I was just floored. I was floored by it.
Yeah.
Another one I got, Sting arrives in the WWE after so many years of speculation of, is he going to do it? Is he going to ever show up? Can Vince ever convince Sting to show up? Now, sure, his run wasn't great.
And they waited for us to give up.
They really did. But the fact that he did show up and did have a few matches was amazing. But just that first time seeing him there, that's great.
Yeah.
And it was almost the exact same feeling of Sting showing up in AEW last year.
Yeah.
With the snow and everything falling down and all that.
That's the other great surprise is Sting showing up. Sting just showing up is a surprise.
Sting is such an iconic character. I can't. He's the best. I just love him. I love him to death.
Hit me with another one.
WWE buying WCW. The Raw with the simulcast, where Nitro wrestlers had no idea what was going to happen. And Vince is just reveling in it. And then they have the whole thing where Shane shows up at the end saying, no, I bought WCW.
Yeah.
Starting a brilliant storyline, which they had to have come up with on the fly within those last couple weeks when this happened, because it was a very quick deal done. And it was just that was a historic night to watch, because I had always been Team WWE, but I knew that WCW had been kicking WWE's butt for much of that time that I'd been watching. And so I always had in my mind, if one was going to go down, it was going to be WWE. So that night, he felt like just a proud fanboy of, he did it. They did it. They conquered them. But you also had, like, I read a lot of magazines, wrestling magazines back then. And there was one issue that I got. It was like dream matches that'll never happen. And it was pitting all these WWE versus WCW superstars against each other.
Yeah.
And when that happened, your mind immediately goes to, they can all happen now. Which, of course, most of them did not, because most of the big superstars did not come over to WWE right away. But a few of them did. A Rock versus Hulk Hogan match was in that magazine of a match that's never going to happen. Yeah. And it happened. And it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was a defining moment as a fan for me.
Lesnar comes back in 2012 to challenge Cena.
That was crazy.
Because Cena had just come off of like, okay, now I'm gonna, because he had just come off of losing to Rock in the first once in a lifetime match.
Yeah.
The first of 2 once in a lifetime matches.
Right.
Some people are lucky to have more than one once in a lifetime. Yes.
For once in my life, I want it twice in my life.
I want it twice in my life. But yeah, that was a really cool, because like John Cena came out and was like, okay, you know, what's next for me? And then Brock Lesnar comes out and it's like, oh, John Cena's just gonna get killed. That's just all that's gonna happen.
He did now.
And he did. It was great. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Shane McMahon returns. Another one of those things that literally nobody, there was no rumors that this was going to happen. Nothing. They had that weird buildup of like the legendary person of the century or something. Yeah. And of course, Vince gives it to Stephanie. And then that Here Comes the Money hits. And the crowd loses it.
It was the best.
For 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Not really, but it felt like that. It was the longest pop I remember ever happening. Like, they could not continue on with the segment for so long. Shane McMahon is crying at the response, and he keeps trying to say thank you to get them to stop talking, and they don't. They're just yelling, this is awesome, no way, blah, 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 all this stuff. Just going nuts. I mean, it was a beautiful moment.
It was a great moment.
And then he stayed and he ruined it.
Yeah. My last surprise that I have is AJ Styles coming and joining the WWE.
Yeah, that was a cool moment.
After his big run with New Japan, and after him being the guy in TNA, like there was no name another person from TNA. You can't. Don't worry about it. It's not possible. Jeff Jarrett, Bobby Roode, Abyss, Ric Flair.
You know, Jeff Jarrett is running another. Like, I didn't realize he was running that other one. I don't remember a Global Force Wrestling or something like that. I didn't realize he was running that one too.
Yeah, that's a surprise.
I mean, geez, we just won't stop.
So that's fun.
So I have 3 more, and a couple of them are quick. Nexus invading Raw.
Yeah.
Where they went nuts and Daniel Bryan choked out Joey Styles, I think, with his own tie, with his own necktie, and it got Daniel Bryan fired immediately. So that was fun. That was a real life thing. He really got fired because he really did that on camera, and Vince really hated it.
I love the interview. I found there's an interview after he did that, and he was like, they're like, what are you going to do now? He's like, I don't know. I've got an English degree. I guess I'll go teach.
Seth Rollins' heist of the century, where he came in when everybody thought this was just another, like the third Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar WrestleMania match.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to have Roman Reigns win, and none of us are going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
And then Seth Rollins comes in at the last second and saves that pay-per-view at the end there. It was a great pay-per-view all around. It was really long.
Our buddies Scott and Mike were both in the crowd that night.
Oh, that's right.
And they said they're like, you couldn't hear anything. Like the music hit, and you just couldn't move. You couldn't hear anything.
You were just all in complete stun. My number one is the Vince reveal as the greater power behind the Ministry of Darkness, because it was shocking, legitimately shocking, because you had seen in the weeks leading up to this how Vince had been actually teaming up with his lifelong enemy in Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. Not as heels. That came later. The heel thing where they were friends. No. Like Vince was becoming a good guy. It was like it was just a surreal thing, and you cheered it on. You wanted it to happen. You had Vince and Rock and Stone Cold and Mick Foley and the union that they had set up.
All along.
And then him just revealing that at the end. And there were rumors that it was him, but that was one of the rumors that no one wanted to be true. Not because it was going to be bad story-wise, but because they knew it was going to break your dang heart.
Yeah.
And it truly did, man. But it was such a good storytelling moment as well. Like it's my favorite wrestling memory from those early years of me watching.
You know, you talk about the DX invading WCW and realizing like, oh, this really is war.
Yeah.
I think the first time that when I look back on it, the earliest that I think, okay, this is war, is Lex Luger showing up on episode number 1 of Nitro.
Absolutely,
like, that was a statement. They were like, here you go.
That
balls in your court, Vince.
Rick Rude being on both shows on the same night.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really kind of crazy. There
were a lot of good surprises with that war.
Really,
Dean Ambrose or John Moxley showing up at the end of All In.
Yeah.
Or Double or Nothing or whatever it was.
You could have.
That was really cool too.
You had so much potential. You literally could not have lost, and yet you still did. WCW. So, well, that's it for us. Head over to our Facebook page. Head over to our Twitter. Let us know what your favorite surprises over the last 30 years have been. I had a thought. Okay. This could turn into a segment, but I'm just going to say it here.
Okay.
John relates everything back to wrestling. I'm going to relate a piece of news back to wrestling that has nothing to do with wrestling.
Okay.
And that is the death of football legend Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden was the head coach for the for the Florida State University football team for 1,000 years. One of the winningest coaches in program history, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He passed away last week or week before at 91. One of his star athletes, Ron Simmons.
Really?
Yep. Ron Simmons played for the great Bobby Bowden. There's actually a story where Bobby Bowden called Ron Simmons boy. And Ron Simmons was like, "You're not going to call me boy." Because he thought that was like a race thing.
Yeah, I get it.
Bobby Bowden was like, "Why don't you come over to my house for dinner?" And apparently he refers to everyone in his family as boy. Like maybe even the girls. And Ron Simmons was like, "Okay, I guess he refers to everybody as boy." Like that's what we do. So, and as a University of Florida fan, even I can be sad that Bobby Bowden is out, and I'm sure Ron Simmons is as well.